What is going on, everyone? Welcome to our EDL season. Brain fade. Season 3, week 7, I believe we're in. Week 6? The week 6 video. We had a pretty unfortunate loss last week. I played pretty poorly, and we ended up losing to Scamp, the Dublin Drifloons. We're still sitting in the top 8, though, which is fantastic, since top 8 makes playoffs. We've got a 3-2 +4 record, and we are taking on Natsue and the New England Audinos, who are 2-3 -3. This is a pretty big game for both of us. If I win, I pretty much stay in the race. I can move up to 5th, considering my differential is already better than Pup and the Green Bay Drawbers. Or I could even move up to 4th if I 6-0 Natsu. If I lose, I could drop as far down as 11th, depending on how much I lose by. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it is a very close race, and we really can't afford to slip up. But yeah, that being said, we're taking on Natsue and the New England Audinos. I've faced him twice before in EDL. I haven't faced him outside of EDL. Last 2 times I faced him, I have beaten him. The first time was off the back of Choice Banded Chinchino, which ended up getting all 6 kills against his team and winning the game for me. The second one was, that was in Season 1. The second one was in Season 2 in the elimination final. First round of playoffs. We faced off against him. It was a very long battle. It was a very good and close battle, but I ended up outlasting him, and we were just able to whittle him down quicker than he could whittle me down. It was a brilliant battle. He is a very good player, and I anticipate a pretty good game. It was also picked to be the runner-up for the match of the week. The first one was Koala versus Clay. Koala was second at the time, so it was first versus second, which is always exciting. Anyway, let's take a look at his team. Also, as you can see, I've got a new layout. Thank you to Teddy for sorting that out for me. Completely out of the blue, but I'm very grateful, so thank you very much, Teddy. Anyway, he has a Salamence, which is his Z Pokemon. This thing is very powerful. I had it in the back end of TBA, Season 3, I think is what we were at. Yeah, Season 3. Sorry, it's a bit early, it's 8:30 in the morning. It's a really, really strong mixed dragon type that gets Dragon Dance for setup as well. It's got 2 great Intimidate in abilities, Intimidate and Moxie. Intimidate essentially dropping the opponent's attack stat when it enters the field, and Moxie increasing its attack stat whenever it gets a kill. Both of them are really scary. This thing also has a lot of defensive utility as well, because of its Intimidate ability and because of its dual typing. It resists a lot of types, or at least is neutral to them. Also, it doesn't have bad defense stats. It's got 95 HP, 80 defense, 80 special defense, which is still usable. So a defensive option could be likely, but I fully expect a offensive variant. He's got a Mandibuzz, which is a dark and flying, really, really bulky bird Pokemon. Amazing HP stat at 110 and 105 defense as well. 95 special defense is really good too. 80 base speed also allows it to outspeed a lot of other bulky Pokemon, which could be problematic, although it doesn't really run that much speed anyway. This thing is just really tanky, really tough to take down. It really just comes in, knocks off or foul plays, then it roosts up damage and U-turns out. It can also defog hazards, but that's really all it does. But it does it really well, that's the thing. Next up is Vaporeon, which is his Wish Passer, or one of his 2 Wish Passers. It is a really tanky water type with base 130 HP, which is absolutely insane, and really decent defenses to back that up. It also has a really good special attack stat, which is definitely not to be slept on, and is the tied second highest on his team. That's kind of a reflection on how physically oriented his team is, though. Anyway, Vaporeon is really tanky. It comes in at Wish Passes to the next thing. Usually going to be healing up the next 3 Pokemon, or 4 of the next 5 Pokemon that I'll be going over. But it does that. It scalds for burn damage. It gets Ice Beam for coverage, which it uses as well. Toxic, it gets Raw as well, to phase out setup sweepers. So It can do a lot of things, and it does it really well with a lot of bulk. Next up, he's got a Donphan, which is one of his primary stealth rockers and one of his primary hazard removers with rapid spin. This thing is really powerful and is never to be slept on, with 120 attack and shit tons of coverage like Seed Bomb, Ice Shard, Gunk Shot, Play Rough, Knock Off. It really puts in work. It's really tanky as well on the defensive side, but it heavily relies on Vaporeon to keep it alive. Same with Hitmontop, which is a really tanky fighting type with a really strong special defense stat and good defense at 95 paired with Intimidate, which drops the opponent's attack, as I mentioned before. He's got a few Intimidate Pokemon. It also gets the ability Technician, which boosts the power of weaker moves, that being base 60 power or below, which makes its moves like Mach Punch and Bullet Punch do extra damage. It's also one of his rapid spinners, which is something to watch out for. He's got a Dusclops, which is it's insanely bulky as an Eviolite mon with 130 defenses plus Eviolite on top of it. It's got a really shit HP stat, but with defenses like those, it's really easy to it really doesn't matter. Although once it's knocked off, it is a bit frail. Regardless, it really just Will-O-Wisps, Pain Splits, and just is a really bulky wall for almost any team. It also gets Trick Room, which is something to watch out for in case he decides to bring Trick Room against me, because I do have a much faster team than him. Well, not much faster, but it is it is faster. I got 2 Pokemon that outspeed his whole team. And it also gets Destiny Bond, which means it can take down its attacker with it. So one of the gimmicks it could use is Trick Room Destiny Bond, which makes slower Pokemon outspeed faster Pokemon. So he can use Trick Room and then get the and go faster, get the first turn Destiny Bond and take me down with him, which is definitely something to watch out for if he does bring Trick Room. Next up is his Mega, which is Mega Gardevoir. This thing is insanely powerful with 165 special attack. And it's fairly bulky on the special defense side too. It's pretty fast at base 100, and it really just hits like a truck. With Pixelite Hyper Voice, Psychic Coverage, Mystical Fire, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, it gets a lot. It also gets Will-O-Wisp, which can burn my Alolan Muck on the switch in. Alolan Muck is really my best answer to this thing, so he could bring Will-O-Wisp to try and really cripple that. He's got Ferrothorn. Mandibuzz and the Ferrothorn, I believe, were traded to him from Cuban. So we faced, I'm pretty sure Mandibuzz, but we've definitely faced Ferrothorn before. I'll just quickly recap. It's just Rock, Spikes, Leech Seed, bit of coverage. It gets Thunderwave as well, but this is his primary, dual hazard setter with, as I mentioned, Rocks and Spikes. 4 times weak to fire, but Iron Barbs makes it so that if you hit it with a contact move, you take damage back. That paired with Rocky Helmet can really do some serious chip damage back to you, so I got to watch out for that. He's got Arcanine, which is his 3rd Intimidate Pokemon. This thing is fantastic. It can be both offensive or defensive with great stats across the board. Offensive, it can be physical or special even, because considering its special stat isn't that bad. Also, base 95 speed is really great because it outspeeds quite a lot of things. This thing is just really there's a lot of it does a lot of things. It gets a lot of utility. Gets its own recovery as well with Morning Sun, which is really nice for it. It gets Will-O-Wisp, so it can burn things. It gets a fair amount of coverage, including Extreme Speed, which is a priority move. Definitely something to watch out for if he does bring the Arcanine, and particularly if the Arcanine happens to be offensive. He's got a Alolan Raichu, which really actually puts in a lot of work against my team, which I found out in mock battles. Base 110 speed, so it's the fastest Pokemon on his team. 95 special attack as well, but it still really hits hard. He doesn't have electric terrain, which is fantastic, because if he did, then I'd be in real trouble. Considering it gets the ability Surge Surfer, which boosts its speed in electric terrain, I think doubles it. That's really its only ability. So we don't have to worry about electric terrain too much unless it sets its own. I don't know if it can do that. But it gets a lot of coverage as well, including Surf and Grass Knot, as well as typical coverage that psychic Pokemon get, like Focus Blast and Shadow Ball. So we really have to watch out for that thing if it shows up. And lastly, slacking, which actually can come to this game. Slacking puts in a lot of work. It's got a whopping 160 base attack stat, which makes it Natsue's hardest hitting Pokemon. It's got 100 base speed as well, so it outspeeds a fair amount of things, and it's got loads of bulk with 150 HP, 100 defense, and 65 special defense. This thing is better than a pseudo-legendary, although its ability Truant means that it only attacks 1 in every 2 turns, which can be good for us, particularly coming in on it hitting us, we recover back up, then it hits us again, you know, that kind of thing. But slacking can be really problematic if we lose our switch-ins to it. So looking at his team in terms of weaknesses, he doesn't really have the best fairy switch-ins, but one thing I definitely did notice is that he only has 1 flying resist, and that flying resist happens to be a Alolan Raichu. So Noivern really puts in a lot of work against his team. So does Togekiss, in terms of that offense. So I tried to utilize that as best as I could when I was building the team. He's also only got 2 fairy resists, 2 ghost resists, but I couldn't really utilize that as much as I wanted to. My fairy's pretty good, but I don't have a ghost type, and my ice type, he's only got 2 ice resists as well, but my ice type is Piloswine, which I didn't quite like its matchup too much, considering Arcanine could definitely show up. It also can't really take the hits that I wanted it to. Also, if Vaporeon comes, that thing just hard walls Piloswine and he gets a free Wish Off, which is really not good. But anyway, let's take a look at the team. So we're kicking it off with Patient Zero. We are bringing a Sharp Beak Noivern with Hurricane, Flamethrower, Draco Meteor, and U-Turn. What Sharp Beak does is it boosts the power of flying type moves. So this way we essentially get like a choiced flying. We get a choiced Hurricane without being locked into it, which is fantastic utility. Hurricane doesn't one-shot everything, but it still does a lot of damage. We've got the typical Frisk, which is what we usually run, so we'll probably lead with this thing, Frisk, to see what the opponent's item is. If he's a Scarfer, we'll probably hard switch out. If he's not, then we'll go from there. We've got enough speed to outspeed the Alolan Raichu. Unfortunately, Alolan Raichu's got just enough speed that we can't run Modest, but it does mean we get to run a lot of bulk. Sorry about that. So we've got a lot of bulk at the HP department, but we still have max special attack, so that HP investment can really save us. Next up we got Mew. No Mew with Rocky Helmet, Roost, Defog, Ice Beam, Aura Sphere. This Mew is my slacking switch-in. So I've EV'd this Mew to take two hits from Scarf. Slacking, Life Orb, Banded can really wreck me, but I don't think he'll bring either of those because it can be revenge killed way too easily. Sorry, I'm really nervous about this. So we got Roost to heal up the damage. We got Rocky Helmet so we can take damage back when it hits us. So it hits us, and it hits us with a physical contact move because that's really all it's got, and it takes damage back with Rocky Helmet. So we can chip it down without really touching it. We can then Roost on the next turn. Either he stays in and a Truant kicks in, so we Roost, or he switches out so we get a free Roost. We've also got Defog to clear hazards, Ice Beam, and Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere hits the Slacking, but Ice Beam is also there to hit the Salamence and the Mandibuzz. This thing can also be a Salamence switch-in if he doesn't bring Slacking. So if he doesn't bring Slacking, this thing will probably be my this will be one of my primary Salamence switch-ins. So that is definitely something to watch out for. Ice Beam also hits the Dunfan, Aura Sphere also hits the Ferrothorn, so it's pretty good utility and hits a lot of things. Hits a lot of things that are likely to show up. And next we got Hacks with Wings, Babiri Berry with Wish, Deagling, Protect, and Flamethrower. We're running a very mixed defensive set this week. We got Wish to heal up Wish to keep the team healthy, essentially mostly the Muck. Dazzling Gleam for general damage, it hits the Mence, it hits the Mandibuzz, hits Hitmontop, and Flamethrower to hit the Ferrothorn, so Ferrothorn can't come in on us and set up hazards for free. Wish Protect, just for general messing around, but the Babiri Berry is for the Salamence. If he is Dragon Dance Salamence, he could be running the Steelium Z, something like Z Steelwing, Z Iron Tail. By running Babiri Berry, we can take that hit and then we can fire back a big Dazzling Gleam, or we can wish up and heal ourselves back up. But really, Steelium Z, or just any Steel type move, is his only real way to touch me, so having that Babiri Berry can really save us there. Next up is Alolan Muck. We're running Assault Vest with Poison Touch, Poison Jab, Knockoff, Thunder Punch, and Fire Blast for coverage. We're running a very specially defensive set despite the Assault Vest, because this thing is our switch into Gardevoir and to Alolan Raichu. Despite having almost max special defense and Assault Vest, it's still a 3 or 4 hit KO. Hyper Voice is, I believe. So that's definitely scary, but this thing comes in on it. If he burns us, that could be problematic, but we can still do a fair bit of damage, and we can really chip this thing down as well. We've also got Fire Blast there to hit the Ferrothorn. We ran Fire Punch against Cuban. He might predict that, and also this way we don't take that recoil damage, which is going to be very nice. I think Fire Blast is a 3-hit KO or something like that, depending on his spread. So that can really come in clutch. If he's low on health and we stay in, we can go for a Fire Blast and we can knock him out. Next up, we got Dog's Piss on Me. Volcanion, we're running Subtoxic with dual stab. We got enough speed to outspeed defensive Salamence, max HP, max special attack, and the rest in HP and a little bit in defense, to make sure we have an odd number of to make sure this is an odd number in our HP, so we can come in on rocks more if he sets up rocks. This thing really does a lot of work against his entire team. His switch-ins to his dual stab are Salamence, Vaporeon, and I'm pretty sure that's it. Just Salamence and Vaporeon. And I can just Toxic them both. Aside from that, Flamethrower and Steam Eruption really wreck his team apart, particularly if Vaporeon is his switch-in. I can just Subtoxic and then Flamethrower, and he can't touch me back. He really can't. There's absolutely nothing he can do. So his only real switch-in is Salamence, but he doesn't want to keep having Salamence come in and take damage, particularly if it's his sweeper. So that's definitely something to watch out for. Although Dusclops could have, I think Dusclops gets Trace. No, it doesn't. But Gardevoir does get Trace before it Mega Evolves, so that is another thing just to worry about just quickly. Vaporeon gets Water Absorb, but we've got Flamethrower, we've got Toxic, it's okay. But yeah, this thing really puts in a lot of work against his team, and it outspeeds a lot of his team as well, assuming that it's defensive. We got to watch out for Mega Gardevoir though, because Hyper Voice does hit through Substitute. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. And last but not least, we're running Redemption, which is our Choice Scarf, Inner Focus. Yenshout, you'd be thinking, why are you running Inner Focus? What's he got to flinch you? I mean, he's got the Hitmon top, but really that's very situational. Inner Focus got buffed from the DLC, and it now prevents Intimidate. So this Pokemon cannot be made to flinch, immune to Intimidate. He's got 3 Intimidate Pokemon, all of which could come in on Mienshao. So by having Inner Focus, it means that we don't take the Intimidate. So you'd probably be running Calcs. How well can we take this after an Intimidate? There's no Intimidate. Intimidate doesn't work. We fire off a big Close Combat or a big Stone Edge, and really do a number to Salamence, Arcanine, Hitmontop, whatever wants to come in and take the hit. So that will really help us out in this game. It also outspeeds Salamence and Slacking, so it can revenge kill both of them if they're scarfed. It can't revenge kill the Alolan Raichu, but I do have things for that, like the Alolan Muck. That's if the Raichu is scarfed though. That's if the Raichu's scarfed. So this is the team that I'm bringing. I quite like the team. I was going to bring Cinccino because last time we played with the Cinccino it got 6 kills, but I really don't like its matchup. He's got 3 Intimidate Pokemon and a Ferrothorn. Also Dusclops can kind of come in on Cinccino fairly easily. So I opted out of bringing it. I was going to bring Rotom Wash as well. I had an initial set which was Nasty Plot, considering Rotom's Dual Stab does quite a lot to his team except for Ferrothorn. But the problem it was actually Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn was able to just come in on Rotom every single time, and I wasn't able to knock it out to a point. Like, I wasn't able to knock it down to a point where Rotom could come in and clean up easily. So I ended up just dropping it from the team completely for Mew, which provided me a better slacking response, which was much better for me. Didn't consider Go-Goat. Don't really like its matchup too much. Piloswine, Piloswine I mentioned could have been alright, but it couldn't really take the hits that I wanted it to. Although Ice Shard could have been very nice for Salamence with Intimidate. Although it does get Oblivious, but that means that I miss out on Thick Fat, which means that Arcanine can really put in a bit of work against Piloswine. It's not really an Arcanine switching anymore. And last but not least is Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor has a really weird matchup. It's really good in some cases, but it's really bad in other cases. I ultimately decided against bringing it. It could have been a Slacking switch-in, but Slacking does get Fire Blast. Slacking also has 95 special attack, which is a fairly decent amount. So I ended up just deciding to can it all together. So, excuse me. So this is the team that we ended up with. Patient Zero, No Mew, Hacks with Wings, Taste the Rainbow, Dogs Piss on Me, and Redemption. This is the team we're rocking with. Hopefully we come out on top with a big win, because we really need it. But I will see you guys in just a few moments in the battle. What's going on, guys? We are back for our EDL Season 3 Week 6 battle. We are sending the challenge through to Natsue. Very nervous. I reckon our prep's on point though. I reckon we got a pretty good team. We got a pretty good build. We'll wait till he accepts the challenge. But this should be a good one. Okay, so teams are in. He doesn't bring the Slacking. Doesn't bring the Slacking, but he does bring the Ments. Okay. Have fun, dude. So he brings Arcanine, Ferrothorn, Salamence, Dusclops, Mega Gardevoir, and Vaporeon. Okay. So I think we lead with the Noivern. I think that's a pretty safe lead. I don't really see... I think if he leads anything, he'll probably lead with the Salamence. So we can actually see if he is Scarf or not. If he's not Scarf, we can one-shot with Draco. Which is really nice, but we'll probably just U-turn out turn 1. Because we don't know what his spread is. It could be Dragon Resist Berry. Could also lead with the Ferrothorn, in which case we can go straight for a Heat Wave. So I think we'll lead with Noivern. I think Salamence and Ferrothorn are his most likely leads. I'm surprised he didn't bring Slacking. I was very much expecting the Slacking bring. That's fantastic, actually, because it means that Mew is our Met switch-in, which frees up Togekiss a bit to do other jobs. Mew can also be our Arcanine switch-in, which is really nice. And I think it can take a few hits from Gardevoir, but I really want to utilize that Rocky Helmet. Okay, so no Slacking. I don't know why they're saying GG. It must be some inside joke. They're all on VC a lot, which I am sometimes, but not always. So, anyways, this is what we're bringing. We should be okay. I think he just brought the first 3 mons because they're all Intimidate. I think that's Intimidate Arcanine. I think it was like prepping for Chinchino. So I think pretty much everything on this team is designed to be Chinchino. Almost everything, at least maybe the first 4. So that could be Intimidate Arcanine. Okay, so what does he lead with? He leads with Vaporeon. So we find the leftovers. So I think it's pretty safe to just U-turn out here. We can go straight into what I don't know what we go into. Maybe we go into we got to scout for Toxic. So maybe we switch into Togekiss. I think is probably the safe play. If he's Toxic, that can really be problematic for Vaporeon. So let's hard switch into Togekiss. Sorry, Volcanion, not Vaporeon. Okay, he just goes for the Ice Beam. That's okay. That doesn't really do too much. So we can just Wish up. If he's got Ice Beam, he probably doesn't have Toxic. Or he doesn't have Heal Bell. In fact, he probably doesn't have Heal Bell. He's probably got Ice Beam, Scald, Wish, and maybe Protect. So if we go for the Wish, we should be okay. Ice Beam only really did 31%. So it's not offensive, which is really nice. No offensive. In fact, we could probably just scout to see what it is. So just to make sure. So Ice Beam. Yeah, there's no offensive investment. So he's running Ice Beam coverage for the Noivern. That's really, really good to know. We're not letting that thing kill our Noivern turn 1. That would be really bad. Although, how much did U-turn do? It did 8%, so we can find out how defensive it is. So he's most likely physically defensive, I think. What's he without? Yeah, he's probably physically defensive. Okay, so he does have Toxic, which is really good to know. So I think, okay, this thing is going to be really hard to break down without Rotom, but I think now we Wish Pass into Volcanion and we get the Substitute off. I think that's probably the play here, because if we get a Substitute off without taking a Toxic, because I don't think he Toxics twice, he'll probably anticipate the Protect or an attack, and he'll probably go for an Ice Beam. So we'll go into Volcanion and we'll get a Substitute up. I think that's our play. We can also bait the Toxic and go into Mew, so we can synchronize Toxic onto him, which could be really, really nice. Okay, don't Toxic, thank you. Okay, so we went for the Dusclops. So let's Substitute and see what he does. I think that's what we'll do. I think we Substitute. Okay, so we found my leftovers, so we might expect Substitute. So he could go for Nightshade, which is definitely something to watch out for. But Substitute, I think, is a pretty safe play. Especially if he switches out. If he switches out, then that'll be perfect. He could switch out into Gardevoir, anticipating the Steam Eruption. He can trace my Water Absorb and therefore be immune to it. That's also an option. Alright, so let's see what he does. Hopefully he just switches out, not into Gardevoir, but into something else. Okay, so he stays in. What does he do? He goes for the Toxic, but fails because of the sub. Awesome. So now we can Toxic it. And Nightshade. Okay. Now he's running Toxic on a lot of things. I'm going to go into Muck. So he's running Toxic on Vaporeon and Toxic on Dusclops. Very good to know. I think a knockoff is a pretty safe play. Nothing really wants to take a knockoff. Ferrothorn could come in, though. He could go into Arcanine as well. I think I'm just going to go for a knockoff, see what he does. Actually, no, I think he's going to go into Ferrothorn. I'm going to go for Fire Blast. If he's running Toxic, he probably isn't running Will-O-Wisp. Which could be really nice. Unfortunately, we're not running Heal Bell, but that's okay. Because only Togekiss is Toxic, but that's okay because Mew still can come in on the Salamence. Okay. Okay, so he goes into the Arcanine. He's Intimidate. Okay, that's good to know. We missed the Fire Blast though, which is a shame. If he's Intimidate, that means he's probably defensive. I think we can go back into Volcanion. On the burn, he could go for a Will-O-Wisp. So we can definitely go back into Volcanion on the Will-O-Wisp. But I think, and if he does click Will-O-Wisp, chances are he is defensive. He could also go for a ground type move. Does Arcanine get ground type coverage? Let's find out. Okay, let's see. He gets Dig and Bulldoze. Scorching Sands, but that's DLC. So he could Bulldoze me. But I think he goes for the burn, so I'm going to go into Volcanion. Okay, having no Rotom actually really hurts this time, so we're going to have to play around that. Okay, so he just goes for the teleport, that's okay. But what does he go into? I think he goes into the Salamence, or he goes into Gardevoir. He could go into Gardevoir. I really don't know what he goes into. Probably Salamence or Gardevoir, if I had to guess. If he goes Gardevoir, we can just go into Muck. If he goes Salamence, we can go into Mute. We need to keep Togekiss around though, because Wish will keep Muck alive. Okay, so he goes into Gardevoir. This thing could have Thunderbolt, but I think Thunderbolt will roll. I think we're going to go into Muck. It's the obvious play, I know, but he's also traced. No, he isn't. He isn't Trace. Okay, that's really good to know. But we want to keep Volcanion healthy because Volcanion really puts in work. Particularly whittling down his defensive team, his defensive core, I should say. Okay, so we'll go into Muck. Obvious play. Is he going to Will-O-Wisp? No, he's just going to Thunderbolt. No Paralyze. Okay, that's perfect. I think we fire off a knockoff. No, we'll go for Poison Jab. I accidentally clicked Poison Jab. I was supposed to go for knockoff. Okay, what is he? We get the Poison. He's not Rocky Helmet. He's just Intimidate. He's not Leftovers either, so he's probably got a Berry. I think we can go back into Volcanion fairly easily. He's probably Heavy Duty Boots, now that I think about it. If he's not Willow, sorry, if he's not Lefties, he could be a Berry, but he's probably Boots. Okay, I don't want to risk taking a hit though, so I'm going to switch. Volcanion is coming in. Okay, he just goes for the Flare Blitz, which doesn't really do anything. So we can freely get up a substitute here. He could have Toxic, but I think we outspeed. I think he's defensive. Yeah, so he just goes into Dusclops. Now we can go for a Steam Eruption. Okay, that's some big damage. That's good. He dies if we stay in, but I think I'm going to switch out. I think he goes for a Nightshade again. I'm going to switch out into Noivern, I think. Yeah, I'm going to go into Noivern. Wait, no. Yeah, I'm going to go into Noivern. I think he just goes for a Nightshade again. Actually, how much HP? 337. We'll take 100, so we'll go to 227. Yeah, I think we just go Noivern, to be honest. We don't want to risk coming in on Mew with a Toxic. We can bait the Toxic with Vaporeon and therefore Toxic it, which could be really, really nice. Or we can just Toxic it ourselves, but I don't think he stays in. Okay, so we know he's a Violite. Yeah, he just goes for the Nightshade, that's okay. We can fire off a big Hurricane and knock this thing out. So that'll be a great win early. Hurricane also limits his switch-ins. He could. I don't think he saves this. I think he just takes the Hurricane. Oh no, he just saves it. Okay. That does a lot. I think we play to make him think that we're Scarf. I think we're going to switch into Mew on the Toxic. I mean, we take the Ice Beam or we come in on the Toxic. Okay, so he goes for Wish. He probably goes back into Dusclops, so I'm going to go for the Ice Beam. I think he goes back into Dusclops. He could go into Arcanine, but I really just think he goes into Dusclops here. So his last move is probably going to be Scald. Yeah, so his last move is Scald. Gardevoir's probably going to have Dual Stab, and then some other move. Arcanine's probably going to have Morning Sun, but we don't know about Salamence or Ferrothorn yet. Okay, let's see what he does. He's really chipping down our team though, which is a bit problematic. So we got to play more aggressively. But he doesn't know what this set is though. So he doesn't know what we could do. So he's really just tossing up his options. I really hope he goes for a Toxic. But we really need to watch out for the Toxic on Vaporeon, so Volcanion really can't come in on it. It might not be able to come in on Ferrothorn either, but we got to see what his spread is before we make that decision. Excuse me. Okay, let's see what this thing's gonna do. It could also be Protect for the high jump kick on Mienshao, but there was no way I was ever gonna bring high jump kick. Okay, what is he gonna do? Okay, so he just goes into Dusclops. Hopefully this kills. Oh, no, it doesn't. It just fell short. He probably just Toxics me, so I think I'm gonna go into Togekiss. He probably clicks Toxic, so I'm gonna go into Togekiss, and I can Wish Pass into Muck, or I can heal myself up. But I'll probably Wish Pass into Muck, because I need the Muck healthy. Okay, that's really annoying. That Dusclops was able to get back to full. Okay. So what does he do now? He probably, yeah, so I think he goes for a Toxic. There's no reason why he shouldn't. He's making the safe plays as well. He's not really, hasn't really been overthinking, but that doesn't mean that we should rule that out at any point. I also realize now that we've switched to the XY sprites instead of the black and white. I might switch that back later, but we get the switch into Togekiss as he goes for a Nightshade. Okay, so we'll go for the Wish. He'll go for a Nightshade again, but we can get the switch out into Alolan Muck and we can heal it back up, which is going to be invaluable. Yeah, so we'll go into Muck now. So that's going to be fantastic. So now we can fire off a big knockoff and we can get a lot of HP back. I'm fine with letting Togekiss go down for that. We don't really need it because we do have Mew for the Salamence. Okay, so he does go into Arcanine. We get the knockoff. What does he knock off? Okay, so he was Boots. He probably goes for a Morning Sun, but other way we could probably just switch into Volcanion. Yeah. Okay, so now we can get a substitute off. He probably goes into Dusclops, but we do get the substitute off and it means that he can't Toxic us. We can get a few turns of, and we can probably knock it out if he does go into Dusclops, between Steam Eruption and Toxic. Which could be massive. We really want that thing gone. Yeah, let's see what he does. I think he knows that I'm going to substitute. So he can't break my substitute, is the thing. I'm pretty sure we do outspeed this thing though. I think we outsped it earlier. No, he just switched. Okay. So we actually don't know this thing's speed investment yet. But let's see. Let's see what he does. Okay, let's see what he does. Excuse me. Thing is now we really have to preserve Muck, considering our recovery is gone. If you run Toxic instead of Babiri, we might have been in better shape, but I really don't think we need Togekiss all that much, especially considering he didn't bring Slacking, and we do have Mew for the Salamence. I think we'll be okay. So what does he do, is the question. What does he do? It's also probably worth calculating the damage from Mega Gardevoir on Mew, because Mew might be able to come in on it, which could be really helpful. So let's see what he does. Hopefully he makes a play soon. Just close that tab, the Arcanine tab. Okay. What are you doing? Okay, so he does switch into Dusclops, so we get the substitute. Now, he could switch into Vaporeon on the Steam Eruption, so I'm going to go for a Flamethrower. Okay, so he just stays in, and he Nightshades. So we can knock it out this turn. So I think we do that. I think we go for the kill. Okay, and we knock it out. That's huge. Dusclops is really annoying. Okay, so now what does he go into? Probably Salamence? Okay. Now I should calc the damage onto Mew before I make a decision. Okay, Mega Gardevoir. Oop, didn't mean to do that. Okay, so it does about 61% from Timid. So I think I got to switch into Muck. So that's what I'm gonna do. Timid Hyper Voice, that is. How much is? Not that. That. Thunderbolt on Mew does about 30%. Anyway, we switch into Muck. Okay, so we're running Double Wish. What does he go into though? Probably Arcanine. So I'm gonna go for a Poison Jab. I really don't know what he's gonna do here, but he's running Dual Wish. That's cool. We can fire off a big Poison Jab on him. Although he probably does just switch into Arcanine or into Vaporeon. If we get the poison on Vaporeon, that could be really nice. But I think Arcanine is his switch into this thing. He could just stay in and go for a Hyper Voice just to check for damage, because although I'm pretty sure Poison Jab kills, so I really actually do hope that he stays in. I'm pretty sure Poison Jab kills unless he's bulky. Considering he's got Wish, he probably is running some bulk, so he can probably live the Poison Jab. But let's see what he does. If he goes into... He probably goes in... I think he goes into Arcanine. He could go into Vaporeon. If he goes into Vaporeon, that's okay. I can stay in on the Toxic. I can stay in on the Toxic and fire off a knockoff. Then I can switch on the Scald. Let's see. He's really thinking these plays through. This is respectable. Okay, what's he gonna do? His team is very scary, so I'm really worried. But hopefully we can break through it. As you saw, we did a lot to Vaporeon. Okay, so he just goes into Arcanine, which is cool. So we get the Poison Jab. Which doesn't really do much. So we can go into Volcanion now, and he just teleports back into the Gardevoir. So we can just go back into Muck. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with just going back into Muck as he Thunderbolts. Okay. No paralysis, which is nice. Now we can just go for a Poison Jab again, but I think he just goes straight into Arcanine. He's been doing that every single time. So I'm going to hard switch into Volcanion, which is a very risky play, but I think I'm going to do it because he really needs Gardevoir here. So I'm gonna, I really do think he just goes Arcanine. Okay. If he doesn't go Arcanine, he could go into Ferrothorn, which also could be really nice. For us to set up on with the substitute. We can see what he does back to us. He's really thinking this play through, so we might actually be considering staying in which case I think I'm going to Poison Jab. Even if he does go into Arcanine, he can't touch us back. And we can just go for a substitute, or we can fire off some damage as well, which is the other thing. Because we've just been setting up a substitute in front of it this whole time. So we can just fire off a Steam Eruption, because he's just been freely teleporting. So I'm just gonna go Poison Jab. We'll play it safe. Okay, so he does just go into Arcanine, and we fire off the Poison Jab. Now we go into Volcanion. We can also save ourselves a bit of HP. Okay, so we just teleport straight away. Starting to see a pattern. Yeah. Okay, what's he gonna do? I think he just goes back into Gardevoir, to be honest. Actually, we can probably calc the damage from Gardevoir onto Muck. How much did it do? Okay, so it just goes into Vaporeon. That's okay, we can go for a substitute. He's not running speed. Or if he is running speed, he can't run as much as we are. So we're definitely going to go just for a substitute here. Okay, he fails the Toxic, that's good. So now we can go for a Toxic back. If we can get a Toxic off on it, because he doesn't stay in, I don't think. There's no way he does. It's intense. I feel like I say that in every game. This is intense. Anyways, I was calculating the damage from Mega Gardevoir. Okay, so Thunderbolt did about 15%, so I think it is just max special attack. Can't really get a gauge on its speed though, but as you can see, Poison Jab does have a 50% chance to OHKO if he's not bulky. So it's really good that we're pressuring him with the Muck. I probably could have run some... Actually, no. Was I running attack investment? No, I wasn't. I was running defense. If I threw that into attack, we probably just could one-shot. So, but it's whatever. We're going to fire off a Toxic on something, and then get a big hit. He's in a lot of he's really in a lot of trouble here now. I just get the substitute on Vaporeon every single time. But we've revealed our whole set. That's okay, because this set really puts in work. I think his best play is to stall us out of Steam Eruptions, but I can definitely outplay that. What does he do? What does he do against this? If he goes into Gardevoir, we get a Toxic off on it, and we put it on a timer. His best way to hit us back is Hyper Voice, which is going to do about not even 50%. So we can stay in on it and fire off a Steam Eruption, which will do a bit over half. So it's definitely a favourable matchup in that regard. Okay, let's see what he does. Because he's just let us get a sub up for free. We've still got Mienshao in the back to revenge kill if we ever need to. But this is a really good battle so far. I'm quite enjoying this. Let's see, what are you gonna do? You just put him on a timer. We'll just put him on a timer. No, that's dog move. I think he goes into... I really don't know what he goes into. He probably goes into Ferrothorn and then doubles out for the Flamethrower. Okay, he just goes into Salamence. He's not Intimidate, which is really nice. And we know he can't be Infiltrator. So I can definitely just fire off a Steam Eruption, which should do about 35 to 40% if he's offensive. But we've put the Ments on the timer if he does try and set up in my face. Okay, so he just goes for a Rock Slide. We fire off a big Steam Eruption back, which does a lot to him. We can now go hard into Mew. Okay, so he goes for the Z move. He's Devastating Drake, which doesn't even do 50. So now we can boost back up. We can boost that HP as he's still on a timer and he dies on the next turn. So we can get a fair bit of HP back. So I don't think I think he could let this thing go down and hit us, but if he hits us, he doesn't kill us. And we've also revealed Ice Beam, but I think he knows that if we've got recovery, we're going to use it right now. We also have Defog, so if he comes in with Ferrothorn, we can stay in and we can get rid of his hazards as he starts to set them up. We can also go hard Noivern and play offensive, play aggressive. Okay, so we know that he was a Z move, which is great. So I don't think he has a Scarfer, which is good for Mienshao because it means Mienshao outspeeds his entire team. So let's see what he does. I think he just lets this thing go down to Volcanion Toxic, which would be really great. Okay, so we just Dragon Claws, and he takes the Rocky Helmet damage, and we get that lovely recovery back with Roost. Okay, so he just goes down to, Volcanion Toxic. That's good. That's a good. We're in a good situation here. So Salamence is gone, which means that Mew's only utility right now is to clear hazards that Ferrothorn may set up. So we're definitely going to keep it around, but it's still expendable. So let's see what he does. Let's see what he does. Oof. This is an intense game. Okay, so he just goes into the Gardevoir. Hyper Voice doesn't kill us, although he probably is going to go for a Wish. I think we go into Muck. He could also go for a Shadow Ball. Okay, so he just goes for the Hyper Voice, which does a decent amount. We can just go for a Poison Jab here. I think, actually, he could go into the Ferrothorn this time. I think we go for a Fire Blast. Because if he goes into Arcanine, we can just stay in and Poison Jab him. Yeah, let's go Fire Blast. Okay, so he just goes into Arcanine. So we can Poison Jab him now. And that almost knocks it out, but he goes for the Teleport, so he can't really come back in and take another hit, which is great. We called his bluff there. We really called his bluff there, which is fantastic. So he needs to Wish Pass back into Arcanine, so we can definitely try and stop that from happening. I don't know if Poison activates before Wish, though, is the other thing. If it does, if it doesn't, then we definitely need to get damage off. If not, then we should be okay just to hit it, and then it goes down. But either way, we can do a lot of damage to him. Okay, let's see what he goes into. He could go into the Ferrothorn. That seems like the most likely play. Excuse me. Noivern's almost in a position to clean up as well. Okay, so he just goes into the Ferrothorn. That's cool. We can go hard into Noivern here. We can definitely go hard into Noivern. If he goes for a Thunder Wave, that's okay as well. So we'll go into Noivern. So we know he's leftovers. He's not Oka. Okay, so he knocks off our Sharp Beak. So we can go for we can definitely go for a Flamethrower here. Although he probably would expect that. I think we go for a Hurricane into the Vaporeon. We can really pressure it. Or actually, we U-turn because he doesn't switch. He knows that he knows that we're probably just gonna have Fire coverage. If he does, actually, what does he do? No, we go for a Flamethrower. We got to play it offensively. I think we just go for the kill. Although he probably just goes into Vaporeon to save this thing, to be honest. So I think I reckon he does go into Vaporeon. Does it realistically help? No idea. Okay, I think he does go into Vaporeon, so we can get the momentum and go straight into Volcanion. So I think that's what we're gonna do. If he does stay in, then we can probably switch into Mew. I think Mew is the play if he stays. I think Mew is the play if he stays in. We can defog away any hazards that he sets, and we can hit him back with Aura Sphere. We can calc to see how much damage he's going to do. We can calc our damage to see what his spread is what I meant to say. Okay, so he does stay in. We cop the Iron Barb's hit, but that's okay. So we're just going to go into Mew as he goes for the Gyro Ball. He takes the Rocky Helmet damage back as well, which is really nice. So we can just roost up with Mew. Okay, and he goes for the knockoff. So he knocks off our helmet. That's okay. I think we can fire back with an Aura Sphere now. Let's see how much damage this does. I really hope it does a lot, because we kind of need it. Okay, that does a really good chunk as he Leech Seeds. Okay, now I think we switch into Noivern. We can definitely fire off a Flamethrower, because we don't want to let this thing get that much recovery back. Okay, he goes for the Protect, but he misses. So he's Knock, Gyro, Seed, Protect. So we can definitely sub up with it on... with Volcanion. Sub up on it with Volcanion. I think he switches here. No, I don't think he switches. I think we go for Flamethrower. We over-predicted last time, which was a really bad idea. Okay, we just knocked the thing straight out. That's good. That's good. Nothing on his team outspeed, so I think he goes into Vaporeon, in which case we can go for a U-turn. I think we U-turn into Mienshao, because we don't want to let Volcanion take a Toxic, and we need to make sure that Muk has enough HP to come in on Gardevoir. Mew also can come in on Gardevoir though, which is kind of nice, but it doesn't have the HP to right now. We could also just go into Mew. We can roost up and we can let him Toxic. We can let him Toxic us. And if he goes for a Wish, we can Aura Sphere into the Arcanine to make sure that that thing doesn't get its recovery back. Okay, so he just goes into that, which is cool. We can just U-turn, get that U-turn chip, and we can go into Muk. Okay, we live another Hyper Voice, which is fantastic, and we can go for... I think we go for a knockoff, because he could go into the Vaporeon. Actually, no. We got to go for the poison jab. If we can get the poison on the Vaporeon, that would also be really nice. But it means we can knock out the Arcanine as well. We just can't let him Toxic our Volcanion, because if he Toxics our Volcanion, we can't 1v1 it with Volcanion. And Volcanion does win the 1v1 against Vaporeon. So we got to make sure that we got to make sure Volcanion is healthy, which is fine because we've got plenty of stuff that can come in on Mega Gardevoir. Okay. Okay, so he does just switch into Arcanine and we get the poison jab off. That's fantastic. He doesn't go back into Gardevoir. No, he goes into Vaporeon. That's fine. So we can go into Mienshao here. Mienshao is probably our best switch in. Okay, he does go for the Ice Beam, doesn't get a freeze, which is awesome. And we can go for close combat, I think. We can just go for general damage, because I'm fine with letting Mienshao go down. We can also see how much damage that does to make a Gardevoir. I know it quad resists, but we might be able to get something decent there. But we could also knock this thing down. If we let Mienshao go down to Vaporeon, we can go into Volcanion for free, which can allow us to sub up. Okay, so that does a good chunk to it as he goes for a Wish. Okay, he probably goes... If he has Protect, he probably uses it now. But I think I'm going to go... I think I'm just going to close combat again. Okay, so I don't think he's got Wish. Oh, sorry, I don't think he's got Protect. So we do quite a lot. We do quite a fair amount to it. I think we go into Mew. I think we let Mew go down. Okay, we let Mew go down. And now we can go into Muk. And Muk can go for a Poison Jab. Because we live a Hyper... I'm pretty confident that we live a Hyper Voice. If we don't, we're in serious trouble. But this is really our best play, I think. Okay. This is really nerve-wracking. Okay, so he's got Dual Wish up, which is another thing, so he could just outstall us. Okay, so he just switches into Vaporeon. Do we get the poison? Yes, we do. That's huge. I think we can now just go into Mienshao. We can go into Mienshao again. And then I think we go for a U-turn. Okay, that's cool. I think we go for a U-turn now. Okay, it lives, barely. But we can go into Volcanion now and knock it out. Okay, so he probably goes into Gardevoir, which can knock us out with a Thunderbolt, with a Thunderbolt. Volcanion's pretty much served its purpose though, so I'm gonna go for a Steam Eruption. Yeah. Okay, so that thing's going down, that's okay. Now we can go into Muck, and we can go for a Poison Jab. And we win the game. How good is that? Off the back of a Alolan Muck, that Wish, letting Togekiss go down, so we can get the HP off to Muck was probably the best play that we made that entire game. That allowed Muck to come in on Gardevoir pretty much every single time it hit the field, which is absolutely amazing. Also, that the momentum that we made with Volcanion was really helped break down his team, which is exactly what it was designed to do. I'm glad that Muck was able to hang on there in the last minute. If it didn't, then we'd have to rely on Hurricane missing and Mienshao being able to kill to win the game. So it really came down to the wire there, but we were able to come back. That puts us up at 4-2 plus 7, which puts us in 5th place, which is absolutely fantastic. So that was a brilliant game. Well done to Natsue. He played fantastically. He really kept me on my toes all game. That was absolutely brilliant, and I will see you guys next week in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Pokemon related content. See you guys.